back to another episode of the Melanin Money Show. Of course, it's your host, Jacqueline Shattuck. We got George Acheampong and Carter Cofield here, and of course, a special guest, Mr. Storm Leroy, better known as the Employed Millionaire.
Yes, yes.
We're so excited to have you today.
It's a pleasure to be here. Finally.
Finally. You guys, listen. Okay, so I have this backstory that was really, really cool, right?
Yes.
So I heard your podcast with Ashcast.
Yes.
I heard it, literally. Had it on YouTube, had it open, and I was listening to it, and I was like, wow. I was like, this guy is spicy. He is saying some things that people really need to hear, because I think that it's important for people to know that as an employed individual, you can keep your job and become a millionaire.
Yes.
So I know your bar is becoming the first, your business, you say it better than me.
Yes, no problem at all. Your job is your first business partner.
Your
business partner. Yes.
Your job is your first business partner. And when I heard that, I was like, whoa, let me pay attention to this episode.
Hey, look, now we got him on the show.
Now we got him on the show.
Full circle moment, man. So for those who don't know you, let's give a little bit of background context, like on just kind of how you kind of got to this revelation that your job is, your first business partner. Just like walk us through that journey.
Well, the journey started for me before actually I had a job. It started with really understanding that, watching my dad who worked hard doing construction. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. And I was a kid, and my dad would always go out to get these construction jobs. Mm-hmm. So we talk in a time that was a different time than now, where you would see people at Home Depot stand outside looking for work.
Yeah.
It would be those groups of us, meaning minorities. We go to these job sites for construction, look for jobs. So my dad was a real strong guy, sort of like you two muscular.
Come on, man. No.
You know what I'm saying? So he ended up helping to build Woodhull Hospital, digging ditches. So he would come home and have me take his boots off. I was about 8 years old. He'd say, come take my boots off. I always try to duck and hide to not take his boots off. There was 8 of us. So one day he gets caved into a ditch from the waist down. So they carry him home. He didn't have no coverage. He wasn't in a union. He wasn't even supposed to be on a job site. Mm-hmm. So they bring him in. He's covered in mud. Sit him at the kitchen table. He's in pain. He calls me and take his boots off. So as I take his boots off, he looked down and says to me, do you know why I have you do this to me? So remember, I'm young. I look back up at him. I says, no. Mm-hmm. He says, because I don't ever want you to go through what you see me going through. So that message really hit me, and I knew he was giving me something heavy. So he would always say this: don't pay anyone else's mortgage. Don't pay anyone else's mortgage. Now I'm absorbing all this because I understand that my father wanted to buy properties, but back in the 70s to buy a home, but due to the redlining, due to banks not loaning, he was in that scenario. Right. You know what I mean? So that thing was implemented in me, where when I actually got my first apartment and I started paying rent, I said, damn, this is crazy uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. The message hit me. The message hit me that I do not want to pay rent. I need to be a homeowner.
Yeah.
So now let me go into more dabbling into what you said, how it actually got to me. When I got a job, now I said, okay, I just was paying rent. Mm-hmm. I got this job. I want to buy properties, but I'm in a place where I didn't have the mindset yet. I went to work for someone, and now I'm at this place going, man, I don't like it. I got to get up. This time, I'm going around, I'm going to work. I said, wow, I want to get into this real estate game. I went to look at my first property in 95 with 2 people, which is a key thing, and I like to mention that. You must surround yourself by the like-minded people when you're trying to do something, or you'll never complete anything you're trying to do.
I say that all the time. You got to get in the right room.
Right room. I went to see this property. I had 100 reasons why I should buy it and 1 reason why I shouldn't. I took them 2 with me, and they found that 1 reason you shouldn't buy it. This neighborhood. And I said, wait, he just want to sell me 2 brownstones for $350,000. But it was crack. It was this.
In New York?
In New York. So this was back, like I said, in 95. So I didn't buy the properties. But in 99, I bought my very first property. And once I bought that property, I said, Dad, if it wasn't, I'm not cursing, so forgive the olds who saying dag. You know what I'm saying? Dag. Yeah. So I understood that. My job allowed me to be able to put this on an application to their down payment. My job allowed me to be able to make payments so I could get my credit score up. My job allowed me the days off, the sick days, the holidays to go do closings, do inspections. I said, damn, technically this job is my business partner. This job allowed me everything, the benefit to get this property. So once I got that in my head, I said, okay, cool. Now what's my next step? I want to get more properties. But the cash flow didn't kick in until I started making that cash flow, and I said, nah, I'm good. Let me hang out and enjoy my life. but I started being at work more than actually focusing on buying properties. And I said, this isn't going to work. I started gutting that brownstone. I'm at the brownstone location. I ripped everything out this brownstone. And I said, okay, Storm, you're doing all this great work. This place is gutted. I used those 6 days I mentioned, those holidays I mentioned, to be at this site. And I almost lost my job. I said, oh, dude, you almost
but the hand that fed you.
Yes. So now I'm in the basement looking up at the top floor. I gutted everything out. And I said, yo, my father be really proud of me. But you know what? I never want to do this again. It was too much work. Yeah. So I stopped buying properties. So now the formula pops in my head. Well, you know, real estate is cash flow. New York properties are too much. How can you do this without actually taking time away from your job and lose your job? Out-of-state real estate, somebody told me about. I said, out-of-state? What do you mean? He said, no, I bought a property out-of-state and I really don't do anything, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, tell me more. He said, well, learn more about it, get into it. So I went to a place called biggerpockets.com where 2 million investors.
Shout out Bigger Pockets Podcast.
Yes, no doubt. 2 million investors hang out there. And I started inquiring about it. And, you know, these guys were sharing valuable information to this. And I said, you mean I could do this and buy these properties? So I started finding properties that were $40,000, $60,000. I said, man, $40,000 property, bank loan on a $40,000 property is $8,000. I said, man, shoot, I got that. I'm making this kind of money. So I started taking that money, buying these properties, delegating a team, property management, find this property. It would take me $8,000 to buy it. I'm making $6,000 a year. So that's 80% return on my money, more than the stock market, more than just about anything. So I said, yo, I can keep doing this. So I started buying more and more, and I never had to go see these properties. So now the key thing also that you understand that excelled my growth. Once I start making this cash flow, the key thing we would always hear is buy real estate and wait. No one said buy real estate, wait, take your cash flow and invest it. Nobody ever said that. Right, so I said, okay, buy my real estate, wait, but I'm going to take this cash flow and invest it. And what I did was I started putting that money into buying more property and into the stock market and into a brokerage account, gaining compound interest. Right. So that's how I accelerate the growth of my money. And once that started happening, I got an Amazon at $700 a share, 2016. I bought Netflix around the same time for $55. See, the understanding is that you cannot just buy something, get cash flow, and let cash flow sit, because what you're telling yourself is you're willing to work. And I knew that once I bought those properties, this money is great. This money is good money, but I'm actually saying I'm going to stay at work, let this cash flow come in, wait 30 years to see the compound of the equity of my brownstones, which is great, but I don't want to work for 30 years. No one should have to work for 30 years. Because you work 30 years and then what? You may not live 30 years of your life. So now you must learn to accelerate and put gasoline on the fire, which is your money. And that's these other key things. You guys can jump in any time.
I'm about to say, King. You gave way. Don't think it's too much.
That was a start. But
I'm about to say, I love the enthusiasm. My question is this, right? I think the reason why you're significant, you're different, because everybody's telling people to go quit their job and start a business. Right. Most people don't know when you quit your job and you start a business, now you're at zero. And you might go into debt trying to start the business up just to get it for the $100K that you were just making that work, and now you want to start investing the money when you could have just stayed at work. So I guess my question to you is, for you, how did you first realize that your job can be a business partner instead of quitting? And what would you say to somebody who's like, they're working good, they're making good money, they're thinking about quitting, but your advice is for them to stay and re-employ the money? Like, what's some advice that you give to people that want to quit when you think they should stay?
Well, here's the key thing. You mustn't quit, because our lifestyle is designed to automatically need money, regardless. Yeah. We're taught to need money. We're also taught, here's the key thing that I want to really share with people that's very important. It's not the power of the money that makes you go to work, it's the power of saying you have a job that makes you go to work. Because if you were to walk into work and they tell you, well, we're going to have to downsize. Well, instead of us downsizing, we're going to cut salaries by 10%. Your salary just got cut by 10%. You know what? You won't leave. Because you just like to be able to say, man, I got a job. It's not the money that makes you go. So when you understand the power isn't the money, the power is within the job. Now you start saying, how do I balance the training of the power that the job have over me, and now reverse that over and use the psyche that the job doesn't have power over me. I have power over the job. I just have not allowed myself to now figure this out. And what I mean by figure that out is, when you get a job, the first thing that comes to mind is your job says, I'm going to underpay you, but I want you to overperform. Now, when you get your paycheck, you say, bet. Now, in return, I'm going to take my paycheck and I'm going to go pay bills.
What's up, guys? Congratulations on joining Team Black Wealth. But we'd be remiss if we didn't give you a uniform as an official player on the team. So head over to shop.melaninmoney.com and grab your official uniform for Wealth Builders Academy. We'll see y'all at practice.
That's a bar. You should never use your full paycheck just to pay bills, right?
100%.
I love that. I think that that's really key because we're so conditioned to think like, okay, how much should I be saving? Like 8 to 10%, and then the rest I'm gonna spend it, right? So it's like retraining your mind to say like, hey, actually, there's wisdom in the wealth triangle. That's a review we got. There's a 5-star review we got. We like to read a review on our podcast just to share what people are saying, right? So if you guys are getting some value from Storm, make sure that you comment, subscribe, leave us a review and say, hey, he's giving some real valuable games so we can share that on our next one, okay? So in this 5-star review from Mel, we appreciate you, Mel. She wrote a whole long list of, y'all are amazing, but I think it was really fun for her to share a growth hack. Give away as much as possible because then you're forced to learn more. So that was something we shared on another episode. So people are getting crazy value from you right now. So we love this. We love this.
Yeah. Now you mentioned why you used to stay at work and like, using your job as a beneficiary, especially to get loans and to start real estate businesses. But people get into real estate, I'm assuming they need to get start up their LLCs for real estate and stuff like that. So do you have any advice to people who say, all right, I'm going to stay at my job, I'm going to use it to build other income, but I don't know where to get started when it comes to like incorporations, LLCs and stuff like that? What advice do you have to that person?
Here's great advice I have for people. Never worry about getting a bank loan. What I mean by that is a lot of people say, oh man, my credit score is low, or I got to do this with the bank, do this with the bank. Banks are designed to make you homeowners, not investors. That's the first thing you must understand, what a bank's sole purpose is. A bank is meant for you to be a homeowner. Now, if you're looking into investment properties, it's best to go with hard money or asset-based lending. And the reason why, because banks require you to be at a 750 credit score.
Okay.
Hard money requires you to be at a 650.
And what is hard money, just for people that don't know?
Hard money is based on the asset.
Okay.
It's not based on anything about your job, how much money you've been saving, how long you've been living at the residence, how your leases. No, it strictly states that if you're buying a property for $200,000, there's equity in it, meaning the property is worth more than $200,000. Right. If it's $100,000, it need to be worth more than that because there's equity. They won't allow you to buy a house that's reverse or underwater.
Right.
So the key thing is now that you want to buy this property, remember, all you need to have is a 650 credit score, 20% down payment, and money that's been in a bank account for 3 months that's been seasoned. Seasoned means that it's been sitting for 3 months. It doesn't have to be in the LLC bank account. It can be in your personal account. It can even be your 401k, and they will allow 50% of your 401k counts towards that to show that you have money. So these are a lot of things that the banks want to allow you to do on that front there, right? So now here's another key thing I teach, which is very important. Please understand the metrics I'm about to give you about the LLC structure, because it's something I get tons of messages
takers
about.
Money makers. All right,
no doubt. Now, first thing that I require is a system that I developed called the 3 must-have LLCs. When you buy a property in LLC, that's your acquisition LLC. So you want to continuously buy properties in one LLCs. I know a lot of people say, oh, you get a different LLC for each property. But what you're not doing is building up the credit history of that LLC.
Talk heavy.
So that one LLC there needs to build up credit history. So when you now get into the bigger leagues, you say, okay, I want to get a $500,000 loan, a $2 million loan. I have over $3 million in loans out on one LLC. So I can make a call to get $10, $20 million easy. But if you say, I want to get me, I need a $2 million loan, they say, okay, show us a credit history to LLC. You go, well, I'm going to get a new one. They go, well, that's not history.
Yeah.
Now, how do we know you can cover that? Well, I have a bunch of other LLCs I'm making payments on. Okay, well, show us your ownership of all those LLCs. Show us that you don't have partnerships less than 41% of those LLCs. It needs to be a certain percentage. See, that's too much work. But now if you have one LLC, all of those are making the payments. Now you're easy to acquire more money. So now what you do is that one LLC, you're going to have acquisition, holding, and property management. You're going to remove that property into a holding LLC to hold that one for security and for privacy. A holding LLC means strictly that's an LLC in an anonymity state. Anonymity states means that no one can look at your name and no one can find out who owns the LLC. We hear about these in the movies all the time. This money is in a shell company, a holding company. It's the reason why you hear these rich people throw these words around, because it means something. We just have to understand that. When your property is in there, if someone tries to sue you or falls in front of the LLC, first thing they say is, okay, let's see who owns the LLC. Oh, it's in an anonymity state, which is Wyoming, Delaware,
I was going to ask you what
Nevada,
the states were. Okay, got you.
Texas. I'm quite sure there's a few of them.
Yeah.
But, just look it up. You'll get all of them.
Yeah.
Once it's in that holding LLC, they say, we can't find who owns it. We can't find the person. Oh, wow. So you know what? We just have to go with regular insurance.
Yeah, because what you did was the person would say, well, you got all these acquisitions in the LLC, but what about liability?
Yeah, that was my thought. Why
you
would
immediately solve for that with the
putting it in a holding
company.
Right? So now I'm going to give you another gem. People always say, well, I have it in an LLC already. Why would I need to put it in a holding? Reason why you put it in a holding in an anonymity state, key reasons. Because if someone falls in front of your property and it's in an LLC, yes, you're protected. You're protected personally.
But your LLCs are in the...
but the LLC will be sued.
Because the properties are in the LLC, and they'll be able to take all the equity out of all the properties.
What they will do is, and this is why you have a property management LLC, you never collect money or rent in the same LLC as you have the property. You open up another LLC, property management, in the state you live in, because you will be filing taxes. Taxes add up to about an extra 7 to 10% of my returns every year in money. I don't pay taxes. Taxes pay me. Now, let me give you something else, really. I'm trying to get all the hot gems out at you.
Whoa. I don't pay taxes. Taxes pay me. That's a bar, and I'm going to borrow that bar.
We might have to get a Patreon episode, because this is too much sauce.
Yeah, I know, man.
I gotta stop. Take a deep breath. So did you learn this from experience, or somebody taught you?
Well, here's the key thing. I always have mentors, and I tell people, just like in a dictionary, the word mentor comes before money. Get yourself one, right? I had me a mentor. I had me a mentor who definitely gave me a lot of information, but he didn't really school me on the LLC structure.
What's going on, guys? My name is George Acheampong.
I'm Jacqueline Shattuck.
And I'm Carter Cofield.
And we are the founders of Melanin Money. And the reason why we started Melanin Money is because we know that there's a great disparity when it comes to building wealth among people of color. We have a tremendous mission that we want you guys to join, right? Every single year, we want to help at least 1,000 people improve their net worth by $100,000, which will create $100 million of new black wealth every single year.
Can you imagine $100 million of new black wealth every year? As it stands right now, for every $1 that a white family has, a black family has a mere 10 cents to match that dollar. We want to increase the wealth in the black community so that we can have equal opportunities.
Simply put, we're about closing the wealth gap, and it starts with you.
So, see you inside.
What that come from is me just being obsessed with math and numbers. I was big on chess, backgammon, poker, things like that. And I understood, well, if I have my LLC doing this, and then my LLC could do that, and my LLC could do this. And see, I don't want to jump ahead because there's something great I want to mention about what you said, but I want to remind me because I want to give you the other ending.
Get back in your head.
So
taxes, so 7 to 10% taxes pay
Taxes
you.
pay me. Now, property management LLC. So remember, I broke down why you need an acquisition. I broke down why you need a holding. And the reason why you need it in an anonymity state, for those of you who say, well, I could just have an LLC in any state. No, because if someone sues the LLC, and now you say, I have an LLC and it's in this state, not anonymity, they can type in and say, oh, wow, we can't sue the LLC, it's protected, but who owns the LLC? Oh, man, Storm owns the LLC. Now they can place a civil suit on you outside of the LLC and come get you. See, people, there's a lot of moving parts in this that we need to understand. And this is why I tell people properties are not properties, they're assets. And I run my business as an asset-based business. Because if you look at it as a property, you're going to go, well, you know what, I just buy an LLC and I'll collect the rent. No, I treat it like a business. Right? So remember, we have those threes. Property management needs to be in the state you live in because you file on taxes. Holding, anonymity, acquisition, you make your first purchase. After you purchase, you place it in a holding. Now, what I want to do is go to some key that this young lady mentioned while it's still fresh on my brain. Now, there's a thing called a living trust. I'm big on legacy, very, very big on legacy. I definitely I cannot stress how important it is for us to create a legacy with whatever we're buying. We're buying properties, we're buying all these assets. What you need to do now is be able to take these assets, put them in a trust to give to your legacy. When we use the word family, we're not talking about just the family you see. If you go in your family tree and you see your great-grandmother, you say, oh, that's my family in reverse. So when you use the word family from now on, you're talking about your family moving forward, not just your children. You're talking about your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren. The Rockefeller Trust from 1934 is something I studied and implemented into my life. Now, what that means is Rockefeller's paying out 12 generations from money that he made out of all this time. So how do we do it? We don't have Rockefeller money. Yes, you do. You have the breath that is coming out your lungs. The breath coming out your lungs is worth so much money on the day when you stop breathing. Because now you take that life insurance policy, and I'm going to give you some simple math, right? Some simple math. Let's say you buy a primary residence, see, here's another gem. Forgive me.
No, I mean, like,
please, you buy a primary residence, and people like to say, yo, I want to pay my house off, Cool, you just bought your $250,000 house. You want to pay it off. The worst thing you could ever do. Continue to make your mortgage payments. You get your life insurance policy for $500,000 to cover the $250,000 mortgage. Now you take that money that you were going to pay the house off and invest. But now let me get into the Rockefeller Trust, because this is really the sum of our existence of what I'm telling you right now. So now you take let's say you pass away, because we all do. $250,000 covers the house. You have another $250,000 that will be in a brokerage account for your grandchildren. You say, your grandchildren? Why not my children? You know why? Because you're paying the house off. You're leaving the house for your children, and you're going to have a separate life insurance policy on your life for your kids, so they have their wealth. $250,000 in a brokerage account. When do your grandkids get it? When they turn 1. I want you guys to pull out your calculators right now, because I'm about to move.
When they turn 21, right?
When they turn 21, your grandkids.
That money's not. It's going to be way. Okay.
There we go. See?
Okay.
I love it. So now you got $250,000 in a brokerage account for your grandkids. $250,000 by the time your grandkids be born or come around, they're 21 years old. That now turns to almost $800,000. But we're not giving my grandkids $800,000. You give your grandkids half. Right? You give them half, $400,000. What's the other half for? That's for your great-grandkids. So when they turn, how old we give them their money, your great-grandkids? 21.
And that's not 400 no more. It's going to be...
So the $400,000 now to turn to 1.2 million. But now 1.2 million, you only get them half of that 600,000. We leave the other 600,000 for who? Our great-great-grandkids. At what age? Come on, y'all.
Ain't nobody ever
So now $600,000 to my great-great-grandkids is about $2.5 million you just left. 4 generations, and it all started with a life insurance policy for $500,000 that will cost you on term $50 a month. You could change your legacy.
Yo, drop the mic.
Wait.
I'm done. Get out of here.
Wait, because I feel like the biggest thing I'm taking from this is so many people are online preaching that you have to be an entrepreneur. If you're not an entrepreneur, you don't have a business that you can pass down to people. You literally just laid out how
$50 a month. But it's the
job.
compound interest for me. You know
That's
what I'm saying?
It's a legacy for me.
Right, man.
I'm not telling you nothing that's wrong. Look up how much a term life insurance policy for $500,000, right?
I have one.
$50.
I
And
have
people
one
say,
for $500,000.
see what I'm saying? And it changes
And no
lives.
Yeah.
And I just showed you how to take your job. I just showed you, if you got $10,000, I just showed you what to do. I just showed you how to set up an LL structure that I charge $15,000 to tell people what to do. I just showed you how to set up a living trust from a Rockefeller Trust from 1934 that I stayed up 4 nights reading. I just gave it to you. Like Myron Golden said, if somebody already wrote it in a book, there's no need for you to go and did it. I stayed up all night reading so I can give you the short version to change your life.
He went through that, so hopefully you don't have to go through
that.
You feel me? So listen,
Hey, you
man.
left me hanging.
I'm sorry. Guys, y'all can go with questions, but
Listen.
Go
Okay.
with questions.
Go ahead.
You already gave us everything,
Go ahead,
right?
G.
Which is wild. 'Cause I know you got so much more in you, but like,
man,
you just gave us a lot,
Get
y'all.
this man some
You know what I'm
water.
saying?
Get this man some water.
And it's a lot to unpack here, but like for the person that's just getting started, right? They got a job.
Yes.
You sparked something in them, right? Something's gonna change. Someone's gonna find you somewhere. I heard you on the Melanin Money Show. You changed my life, right? But that person who's feeling a little bit overwhelmed right now. Because this was a meaty sandwich. You know, this one from New York, so this is one of them.
I didn't want to give it to him too fast.
This one of them heroes, you know, from the bodegas, like
For the bodegas.
you know what I'm saying? So what's the most practical thing they can do to get this momentum started? Because you gave them everything.
The most practical thing you can do is understand the value is in time, not in money. Values of time. You go to work 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. I'm telling you, that's a lie. The moment your alarm clock goes off, you're at work. The moment you get home from work, you're off work. You're actually working 10 to 11 hours a day. So you're actually working 55 hours a week at that hourly rate that you thought you were, but you're not being paid for the additional 15 hours. So now understand this. I used to get up 6:30 in the morning to be to work at 7. Every street light would have to be synced for me to make it on time. Once I understood my job as my first business partner, valuing my time, I got up 6 o'clock in the morning. You know what it was for? Not to go to work. That's for me to sit there on the edge of my bed and go, this is how my plan is going to work. This is how I'm going to be able to leave this job. This is what I'm going to be able to do. It all starts with understanding the value of your time, and the job has power, not the money that you make at the job. No matter how much you say you work overtime because you want to make more money, no, you're working overtime, but you're actually making less money when you work overtime, because think about the tax implications of that.
Yeah.
People go, I worked all this overtime, but I don't see the money.
Yeah. Uncle Sam said, let me get that. Let me hold that, son.
Right.
Your time is the most important thing. You will never be able to get that back. Once I understood that, my life changed.
All right, so you gave them the practical, like, tangible thing that they can do, right? For someone who's like, man, this guy changed my life, right? So they know exactly what to do. They got that perspective. I guess if you could go back, right? Because it's all about collapsing time. And if someone listens to this episode, obviously it's going to accelerate something for them. But if you could go back and tell your younger selves anything that you feel like could change the trajectory or accelerated the trajectory, what would you go back and tell yourself?
Wow, I always say that to myself a lot. And the one thing that I would have grasped quicker is to take my cash flow and pour gasoline on it. Like, I learned from old school real estate people who were like, just buy you some real estate and wait. But in actuality, what they was telling me is buy real estate, keep working for 30 years, and that building would allow me to retire comfortably. They wasn't telling me that that building would allow me to retire early. They were like, you work and those buildings are going to make sure you good when you retire. But then when I figured out, I'm not trying to be here 30 years. What am I doing with this cash flow? That version of me, if I would have known how to do that, I would have poured gasoline on my money quicker.
No, that makes sense. And in your name is employed millionaire.
Yeah.
Right? But actually, I'm going to let Jacqueline ask her question first, because my question is going to be a closeout question. So,
Well, I have a question about legacy.
Yeah.
Because some people will come to us and they'll say, well, I don't have any kids, so I don't feel like I need to plan for not having any kids, or, I don't plan this whole big legacy. Like, what propels you to think about your great-great-great-grandchildren?
Well, for me personally, it's because I as a young kid, I heard the stories my father would tell me. My father really would speak and tell me a lot of things about the South, where my family's coming from, and about the racial inequalities that were going on, and growing up and watching him not be able to do this and him not being able to do that. And I was always I was a great listener. My great uncles would tell me stories about my great this and great that and what they've been through. And I said, wow, if you guys are telling me something from 4 generations and really there hasn't been any much change now, how can I change that?
What's going on, guys? I'm George.
I'm Jacqueline.
And I'm Carter.
And we are your money mentors. But today we wanted to talk to you about a really special feature, Financial Flicks. Can you imagine an entire on-demand library of financial content across 3 main categories: wealth building, entrepreneurship, and personal finance, so that you can take your finances to the next level?
Guys, when you replace entertainment with education, your life will change forever. Imagine replacing 1 hour of Netflix with 1 hour of Financial Flicks. Imagine how much further that could take you to your financial destination. And we have the perfect library for you.
Yeah, so if you're ready to financial flicks and chill with us to put more of your energy into education, then join us in the club. We can't wait to see you there.
See you there.
And I knew it needed to start with me to be able to give all my generations after the chance to go, he left me some money, I can start my business. And what we have to understand now more than ever, technology is making it even more important and possible for the younger generation to come up with great ideas at 11 years old. Where's that money for them to get started? So my trust is set up in a way where all my assets, and I love to get people to look inside my trust. My first trust was 2019, and as of 3 months ago, I updated it, which you should do it every 3 years. My trust is structured, before it was structured where they only get money at 21. But now I just recently structured it where now they have to come to the trustees of my trust, and they can borrow money at the age of 16 and 18.
Keyword, borrow money.
I know Marv has something to do with that.
Because the trust is a business. All of my children and grandchildren have life insurance policies in the name of the trust that you can borrow from. Marvin, he knows that. Like, that has always been my play, and that's how really he heard me speaking this and said, we need to do something. So they need to come borrow money, because I know that 21 is a great age, but think about it. They might be 16 years old away with technology now.
Yeah, they might need it. They might have an idea.
The highest paid YouTuber was 7.
You see what I mean?
7 years old.
So that's important for me to put that structure in place, because I want to make sure I change things. And now with your question of saying, what about people that don't have children? I love that question so much, because what you're actually doing is being selfish. You have to understand you have nieces and nephews that still carry your name and bloodline. Rockefeller didn't say this is just only for my children. This is for the family name. A legacy is a family. I just mentioned earlier, when you say the word family, you're actually talking about every single one. If you see your great-great-uncle, your great-great-niece, that's your bloodline. You need to make sure you prepare every one of them, because we need to really stop thinking about the world as being this place where your last name can't mean something. When you hear Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Rolex, like all of these things, these are families. My ultimate goal is for my family to drive through a cul-de-sac of nothing but apartments and buildings and see our name on that plaque and go, my great-great-grandfather, he specifically thought about us when he did this. I want to leave my footprints in the sand. If you don't have anything in your heart that makes you want to leave something for them, then that says something for you. You're not thinking about generational wealth as much as you talk about it. You're actually talking about self-wealth, self-gratification. We need to get past that and understand that this is bigger than us. I understand we haven't been taught the right way, but there's no excuse because the information is there. And when people say, well, I'm not on social media a lot, I don't do this and that a lot. You know what? And social media is the new encyclopedias.
Social media is the new encyclopedia.
Yeah. That's it.
That's
I grew up with encyclopedia books. When somebody tells me, oh, I'm trying to run a business. Yeah, well, what social media platform? I don't really do social media. Well, you don't have a business, my man.
You don't like money,
You need to be on it, even if it's a hidden page or you're not showing your pictures. Just follow what's important to you, the people that would change your life.
I tell people all the time, either be open social media, are you using it or is it using you? It's very important distinction. So I think social media has a great place, and I'll close out. I love the shirt. I love the brand, Employed Millionaire, and our show.
Not just money, but mentally.
For sure. And at the Melanin Money Show, we always ask our guests one question. What does it mean to you to be a Melanin Millionaire?
Wow, man. I just told you how much it means to me with family and legacy and understanding the things that my father has shared with me. And, the passion for me, I'm going to share something I really don't share with too many people. I used to be an entertainer. Like, I was in a group, I traveled the world, I would stand on stage and have people screaming my name, singing songs, stuff like that.
You going to hit a number for us?
No. But I never thought anything would ever capture the feeling of when I'm ready to get on that stage. But when I started teaching and seeing people light up, and I'm realizing I'm not just giving them something for the moment, which is the enjoyment of being entertained. I'm giving them something that will live forever for generations and generations. Yeah. Like when I knew I was doing that, my world changed. My world changed, and I said, I have a powerful message, but also I'm a good orator. I'm really good at giving this, and this actually comes from, just to close out, and I won't keep you guys. For me, I embraced this because I lost 2 sisters, right, due to cancer. And at the time when this happened, I really was forced to get on stage on a platform because where they was having her services, unfortunately, they was using it to recruit people in the church. And I wanted to go up there and tell how I knew my sister, this person, before she joined here, which was a great church, but just don't recruit. And I was young. I went up there and I just started talking and delivering and doing this and that. The place started up, people crying, I'm crying. I run to the back. My family comes out here, this roar, and the minister comes up and said, I don't know what it is for you to do in this life, but the way you talk and the way that people listen to you and the way that you could get your message across with so much heartfelt meaning, go find your message. I found my message.
Thank you.
And with that, we'll see you in the next episode.
Hey!